Greetings, chess friends. Today, we're going to talk about a gentleman named Harry Nelson Pillsbury. Now, most of you, I would assume, do not know this name. This gentleman was an American, straight out of the city of Boston, my neck of the woods, and there was even a memorial tournament for him when I was growing up. But this gentleman, an American player, was the top player in the world. At a young age, 22, I believe, he won the 1895 Hastings tournament ahead of, listen up, Lasker, Steinitz, Tarrasch, all the best players. And he won first place. Today's game comes a little later in his life, in fact, just 2 years before his untimely death at 33. He died quite young, and some, including Kasparov, speculate he could have played for the World Championship, essentially the best player in the world, in the late 1800s. Harry Nelson Pillsbury. And I thought it was funny that chess.com gave this variation of the Queen's Gambit the primitive Pillsbury defense. So here, sort of Tarrasch structure, but bishop g5 is really the first move that's not so typical here. White will normally play e3, very logical, sensible move, or pawn takes on d5. A couple options here in the Tarrasch. Bishop g5, not a top move, but of course makes sense. And I hate to be so critical of the players back in the 1800s. Let's give them a break. C takes d4, queen takes d4. This marks the primitive Pillsbury variation. Knight c6, and it looks like the queen has to move. For those of you with that kind of tunnel vision, they attack my queen, it has to move, start trying to think about more moves. Can I make a check? Can I threaten their queen? We captured a knight there and threatening their queen. So there are more possibilities. I think that's a good lesson for everyone out there. G takes f6, and now our queen is really hanging. Lasker, the world champion at the time of this game, has doubled his pawns here on f6, and really gonna have a tough time finding a place to castle. Keep that in mind. Black does not really find a place for shelter. D takes c4, and that move really is interesting. Not a bad move, but you really are opening the D file for the rook, which comes immediately right now, rook d1. Very natural move. But again, back to d takes c4, hard to suggest another move. Some natural looking move, like let's say bishop e7, will probably just castle queenside. A nice visual move, but again, getting the rook to the same great square. And notice this pawn is really in trouble with its c-pawn attacking it, the knight, and that rook. So it makes sense to capture this pawn, but again, it does come with danger. Rook d1, bishop d7. And the engine doesn't hate this move, but I kind of do. It's tough to suggest a better move because, again, this pawn is hanging. Maybe queen a5 or queen e7. But I should say that it feels like as the game unfolds, this really becomes the key problem. e3, a very natural move. Knight e5, capture, capture, and kind of like both players aren't wanting to trade queens. Here, he plays queen takes c4. Earlier, Black had a chance to trade queens as well. Here, after bishop f6, he decided not to take with the queen here. Okay, back to the game. Queen takes c4, and let's pause here for just a moment. Interesting double pawns in the center of the board. With those rules of thumb, double pawns are bad. You have to kind of make some allowances sometimes because these pawns actually guard a lot of squares. Notice also this direction. So the pawns are pretty good. I would say Black has the bishop pair, but the biggest factor in this game, in my opinion, and I tend to favor White here, is the king. This king could be in real danger, whereas White's king will find some shelter. Very safe. Bishop will move. I like the rook on d1. White has a nice organized position, let's say. Queen b6 gets out of the way of this, but now, again, think about trying to castle your king. You're going to be letting go of this bishop, so it's still going to take Black at least 3 more moves to get safe, and that time really doesn't come. Bishop e2, queen takes b2. A very greedy move. Grabbing the pawn and implying rook c8 is a major threat, the knight under attack. But we've got to say that that is a lot of time taken. Maybe he missed, Lasker, Black missed after castling rook c8 is not a deadly threat. Black threatens the queen and the knight behind it, but queen d3 is a counter strike, hitting nothing less than checkmate on d7. Rook c7, a passive move, and that knight jumps towards the center, eyeing f6, eyeing d6, a really good piece. All of this for the cost of a pawn. White is down one pawn, but has great attacking prospects. Again, the black king just not finding safety. Pillsbury really understood the value of the initiative, and again, this was some 40 years after Paul Morphy, and the players understood and kind of absorbed those lessons from Morphy himself. Bishop e7, and this has been a well-played game, really well played by both players, game roughly level. Knight d6, and here king f8, actually the best move. Really, capturing this gets to be too dangerous as the rook is under attack. Let's say queen b6 here, and the e5 pawn also hanging. Threats on the rook. We get back to material equal, and it's clear that the black king is in dire straits, and white is safe and sound. Back to the game here, we have king f8, knight c4. Another great move, just bouncing backwards, hitting the queen, hitting e5, and when the queen moves, here, f4. Those double pawns were kind of a menace, and f4 aims to get rid of them, but more importantly, open the f file. If this file opens, essentially the bottom line here, we're adding another piece to the attack, the rook. So if this file opens up, black is toast here, and all the pieces will be playing. I love f4. E takes f4, and you think, okay, after all of that, of course he's going to play rook takes f4, queen d4, the very best move, exclamation point times 2. Hits the rook, threatens to take this back, which is a much better move, which would then be threatening checkmate and the rook. This is sensational, and you've got to assume he saw that before playing here f4. f4 is really maybe the star move, kind of flies under the radar. Engine, ice cold, giving e4, queen takes e4, and bishop c6. Get out of here. Here it captures queen d4, sensational move. F6, and you can feel how brittle black's position is here. Queen takes f4 again, hitting the rook. No more checkmate threat. Bishop is holding this pawn for now. Queen c5 guards the rook, pressures the pawn and the king here, and knight e5. I love the creativity here. Of course, you cannot capture this because the rook is still going to be staring here at the pawn, making a pin. That is safe. Black is down a queen. Then the threat is to just capture this with rook or knight. And we're getting very close to the possibilities of checkmate. Queen, knight, bishop, rook, all the pieces are playing. Bishop e8, knight g4, another good move, threatening to just take the pawn by brute force. f5, queen h6. And this is where the engine just says no more. Black has no more chance. After f5, you are really doomed here if white plays well. King f7, and another beautiful move. Really just a symphony of amazing moves here. Bishop c4. I mean, you just can't involve all the pieces in a nicer way here. Every piece is playing. I love that classic concept. The more pieces you're using, the better. Mobilizing the team, efficient and amazing. Okay, if the queen takes this bishop, that is certainly not just a blunder. Knight e5, check, and picking up the queen. The real strength of that knight. Amazing. In the game, he plays rook c6. That keeps this guarded. Notice the queen was watching that bishop, trying to take it, and keeps the e5 square, but rook takes f5. Are you kidding me? Rook takes f5 after all this. Again, if pawn takes, but you cannot. So queen takes, which is what happened in the game, and then rook f1. Probably there were even better moves, but when you see a move like that, you really just can't resist. A better move here, the engine just likes the icy cold bishop b3, king h1 I see is mentioned, but I love rook f5. Nice move. And it's in real human form that it simplifies the game. Why not take with the bishop? Well, actually, it's funny. When king takes, this is still safe due to knight e5. He plays bishop t7. That bishop is just woefully out of the game, and the rook still hasn't made one move. Queen h5, really one of the final nails in the coffin here. King g8. If he had played king f8, a knight e5 again lands. This just central octopus knight hits everything. Bishop, rook, guards the bishop, and more importantly than all of that, checkmate on f7. So that would just be stunning. In king f8, well, the same exact move. 95, really threatening checkmate here. You can squirm a little bit with maybe king g7 and get your king scooting out here to h6, but it's not going to be comfortable. You're not going to survive. Free material everywhere you look. And black resigns. The world champion throws in the towel here. An amazing game, again, by Pillsbury. Worth looking up his games and his, again, short chess career, but more or less was the best player in the world and really could have made a run at being the world champion. An American that doesn't get as much notoriety as, of course, Morphy or even Frank Marshall, I would say. So something to really be aware of in chess history and perhaps further your chess education and knowledge. Hope everyone enjoyed this one. And again, thank you very much. And we'll keep rolling with some great chess games.